I was having this conversation the other day, and I thought it would ruffle some feathers. And I said, the world doesn't need another white billionaire. There's 15, 20 of them. It's a fact that it's easier for them to achieve it. And no hate to them, right? I think I speak from a place of jealousy when I say that. But what about living in a world where there's Latina billionaires? What are we going to do to make that happen? And I think that that's a responsibility of us, Latinos, to make that happen.
I have a lot of memories of like jealousy and envy, but I would rather use that energy to build things. I'm done complaining. That was like my high school years, my college years for sure. Why not use that energy to create the change you want to see? Or that was the switch for me. Like, it's gonna be harder, but we're also contributing to this world.
I was like that, grew up, I was undocumented, and then every door shut. I feel like there was that year, 6-month period where I just kept complaining. Fuck. Why this happened to me? And I feel like it was the ego talking a little bit, right? Like maybe you feel like it's supposed to be easier for you, or like shit was supposed to just happen for you. There was a moment where I said, you got to stop complaining and deal with the cards. I'll never forget this conversation I had with my dad. He said, look, these are the cards the universe dealt you. What are you going to do? You could just sit down and do nothing, or you can wake up to the realization that you don't really even have it as bad as other people that you know, and just start fucking doing something.
That's real, and that's the harsh truth, man. I think also the journey is so satisfying now. Like, man, we did this shit from the ground up, and I think that's a really satisfying achievement. Even like when I was in college, I remember seeing my peers who were mostly white. I majored in design. I was like, everyone has an internship, and I don't have those connections. Like, I remember hearing like, oh, my father's friend got me this internship, and I was like, year after year, I couldn't get an internship, and I would always complain, but I remember one day just realizing I just had to work twice as hard, fuck it. And when graduating, I was like one of 4 that got a job after, and wow. I was like, man, I'm part of that class that actually got something after this. Yeah. Like, nothing was handed, but it's fulfilling. Like, man, we did this shit.
I just say that my story is not special. I think our stories aren't special. And I feel like that's what kind of makes them powerful. Yeah. Because, we're kind of one of millions of kids that kind of have a similar background. Yeah. That I feel like are being held back for this factor that we kind of scream at the weather for shit not being easier as it should be or could be for us. I think what sets us apart is that the complaining becomes fuel for action. How do you turn that, negativity into action? And what was that point for you? What was that point of biggest friction in your life that you said, if I don't fucking do something now, it'll never happen?
Because I grew up in a little village, and like, I didn't have my own room. I shared a room with 2 brothers, like very small, that only fit 3 beds, a bunk bed, and a bed next to it. Like, that's it. We didn't even have a door. Like, the door didn't exist. It was like, we looked at the kitchen, and like, I didn't want to live like that. I was like, man, I'm going to college. I don't even have a desk. I don't have a door. I don't have my own bed. I'm like tired of this shit, for real. Like, I feel like there's something more for me, because I was pretty good at school, and I was like, but I can't live this fucking life anymore. Like, so I think the turning point for me is realizing that I was able to create with even the lack of resources that I had in front of me. I think I reached the breaking point where I was like upset at even my family, my brothers. I'm gonna stop pointing fingers. I'm gonna stop complaining. I'm gonna put my head fucking down. 8 years ago, I would take the bus, go to Harold, Washington, put my head down, stop complaining. I'm gonna do this shit. And that was one of the turning points right there.
Damn. When I was at a similar point in my life, I always would complain like, fuck, if I would have been born in the suburbs or white, I would have it better. And even to this point today, sometimes I feel like that in the industry that I am. Like, wow, like, it'd be so much easier if I was white to some degree on some aspects of life. But then a lot of times when I'm in the middle of that, anger, sometimes I realize, no, it wouldn't. It would actually be the opposite. Do you feel that if you would have had it easier growing up, that you would have ended up in the similar place that you are now? Or you think you would have been softer or lazier and you would have taken a lot of the shit for granted?
That's a good-ass question, because I think about that a lot.
Yeah.
Because I grew up in Little Village, like straight in the middle of the hood. I always compared myself at the time, because I used to live in a bubble, to the Mexican Americans or Mexicans in Midway. In Midway, I was like, even though they were lower class, they had more money than me. And I saw some of my peers that grew up in Midway with like their own room, a nice house, their own garage, like living a good middle class life.
Yeah.
I don't think they were as hungry as me, because the hungry came from living in that environment. Even right now, as like a Latino in this industry, I used to think we didn't have a lot to offer, and that was kind of like the mindset that our doubts that we have. Yeah. We have an interesting perspective that we bring to the table is just different. It's not better or worse, but it is very valuable, and I kind of take pride in that a little bit now. Like, we have an interesting lens that not everyone has right now. Right. And we're like one of the first to bring this to the table, honestly.
I feel like this is another point that you and I kind of see. As much as I want to be the role model I never had, and I never felt like I'm qualified or successful enough to be one yet, I do suffer a lot from imposter syndrome. I've seen that in a lot of other Latino, people that are successful but don't feel successful. That kind of creates this culture of, you kind of keep to yourself, you don't share a lot. Not a lot of people know your stories. And what I'm starting to slowly realize is should actually be the opposite. We represent such a tight minority, and within that, not a lot of people have opportunity access to some of the ones that we've been able to have, that it almost kind of shifts into our responsibility to tell that story. So I know that you're relatively quiet when it comes to the success. And talking to you, I know that you kind of underestimate, the achievements that you've had. I see myself in that. You just don't feel worthy enough. How can I be somebody's role model if I don't have $1 billion in the bank account? How can I provide meaningful conversations to somebody if I just don't wake up feeling like I'm at the top of the game yet? That's something that I'm working very hard to change. So I'm very curious to see how that experience has been for you, because you're one of the most successful Latinos that I know. But obviously, sometimes you don't feel that those achievements are big enough. So it's interesting because it's almost a reflection of myself as well. So I'm curious to kind of dig into that a little bit.
I was about to tell this story. I was at the barbershop, and I told him, like, I have this talk today. I don't really share my story. And he stopped me. He's all like, Alex, I think you should share your story more. You have a lot of influence. People will look up to you. Like, that kind of struck a chord to me at the time, because the mindset is like, I know the way you think is very similar to me. It's like there's billionaires out there and like those are the people that we put ourselves next to each other, which is a very fair mentality because we're very hungry. But at the same time, we come from a specific background that from this background, there's not a lot of people at this level. That's kind of like the conflict right there. Like, compare myself to like literally multimillionaires that are in this space, but I have people still in these communities that are looking up to me, and I didn't really know they were looking up to me, honestly. They never really tell me unless the conversation comes up. I think it is important to share our story. Where can I find a podcast about Latinos, Latinas that don't talk about trauma? I was like, I'm fucking tired of hearing that shit, bro. Like, why does every story relate about our trauma? And like, bro, we fucking have trauma. We do. Our backgrounds are hard, but I'm trying to hear some joyful, inspiring shit now.
That's a cultural thing. I've had a lot of conversations with people of all backgrounds that grew up in like traditional Mexican households. We really only talk about the fucking trauma. We don't talk about the wins enough, so people don't think we are winning. And that's a gigantic problem because the perception is reality. People say they're not fucking winning. They're not doing anything. That's where the bad stereotypes happen all the time, but that's not even the case. We have to do that a lot more. Yeah. Just tell the stories. It's funny. You just had that realization today, even though you've been kind of on this like next level grind for, a year. So I kind of know the plot lines. You build something from scratch, self-made, you sold it, you're kind of at this next level now. Tell me what that means to you, because I don't know any other people that have done it, but you have, and that's a very important point of view to share, bro.
I was currently working at General Electric. That was one of my first jobs as a UX designer, and that's what I studied. I studied design at Champaign-Urbana. So I really had a passion in design, and I was a beast at Photoshop, honestly. Like, I mastered Photoshop at the time. This was like in 2018, I believe. Like, Instagram came out with this feature where you're allowed to post multiple pictures on one post, and they introduced the carousel feature. Like, you're able to swipe left to see up to 10 pictures. And immediately I had this idea, what if I could create this panorama style collage using that carousel feature? And I was like, I got this idea, but the ideas are kind of worthless without any form of execution. I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna put my head down and make a prototype. I know how to design, I know how to make a prototype. And during that journey, everyone was like, this already exists. Like, and I was just like, nah, but like the way I'm going to brand it is different. And the features that I'm going to add to it are different. That shit could like sometimes get to you, honestly. Like, man, this already exists. My vision was that it's just not going to be like this single image that you're able to put across multiple slides on the carousel. Prototyped it, and my homie, who's also kind of like a hustler, he's an iOS engineer. His name is Anthony. He was like, I'm down, let's do it. Low key, we didn't know what we were doing, but we pushed forward. We never really quit. And around 2019, we started seeing a lot of users downloading this app. And in 2019, it kind of went viral. We started getting people copying us. So we started getting a lot of traction. And eventually we decided to do a subscription model in 2020 where you pay annually. Eventually we were making like 30 to 40 grand a month, like
wow.
Just off this little hobby that we had. And we're like, all right, let's actually put some business thinking to this. And a couple of companies in 2021 reached out to us about acquisition. And the first one, it was a company in New York. He kind of lowballed us, and we said no to him. That one was hard because we said no to a lot of money. Part of it is like understanding your value. And a couple of months after, a company from Sweden reached out to us. They offered us like a 7-figure acquisition. And we said yes. We brought up our lawyers. They had their lawyers. We got acquired in 2021. That was the exit of SCRL. So we're on to the next venture, you know?
How many people that share your upbringing have achieved something like this?
I don't know anyone.
How does that make you feel? I'm curious. Because I'm not even at that level, right? Like, I've never sold a business.
I'm really proud at what we achieved, but at the same time, I still have that feeling like, man, that was the first, let's go hard in our second. And it gave us great experience to take that knowledge and apply it to our second and third business. The way you just phrased it made me feel proud. I'm not going to lie. Like, I don't really know anyone that did it. I don't know anyone, honestly. It's pretty fire. Like, this shit is possible. Like, it's just a lot of bumps in the journey that require a lot of discipline, honestly.
When Harvard interviewed me for the case that they did on me, I said this quote out of nowhere, and then the professor was like caught off guard, and he wrote it down. And it was like, and I said, success is a mindset powered by purpose. I reflected on that the other day, kind of going through some of my archives, and I said, fuck, success is not money in the bank. Success isn't cars and Bugattis and mansions. Success is waking up every day and feeling like you can conquer the world. As somebody that's done it, like, how do you deal with that adversity, that proverbial brick wall right in front of you? Because you have to fundamentally believe that you could do it.
It is a mindset. I think that's the number one key. You could read all the books, but if you don't have that grit or that mindset, I don't know if you get past the first year, honestly. And it deals with your bigger purpose. Like for me, like I always told myself, I want to build a legacy. So that's like the umbrella of mine. Like I want to build a legacy. So for me, and I'm sure for you too, you have like a North Star already. And to me, that's kind of like the hyper focus. I'm not giving up on that purpose. I think we're able to build with the lens of ourselves. So like I'm building my businesses with the lens of Alex Flores. And that's the way I see my next 2 businesses that I'm working on. Like, I don't care if it exists already. Like, this is through my lens, and this is the way I'm creating it. I'm creating it in a very specific way that it might be a niche, but, like, it's through the Alex Flores lens.
I just think of all the 15, 16-year-old kids that I run into, and they reach out to me asking for advice. And I'm like, fuck, give me 10 years, and I can be that person you look up to. And that's been my approach. But I'm like, what the fuck am I waiting for? Yeah. Like, these kids need something now. Because I didn't have that person when I was young either. Maybe it's just me kind of like not taking responsibility. Just being like, no, I'm not ready. I'm going to put it later. And another thing that you said very impactful to me is you have to know your value. Mm-hmm. I would be willing to bet that you didn't fully understand your value till something clicked. I feel like you underestimated yourself a long time. I feel like you didn't really believe in yourself because I didn't believe in myself. I underestimated my abilities. I thought I wasn't meant to do great things. and I thought I wasn't going to do it because, you know, people said that I wouldn't. What do you tell that person about what it means to understand your value in this world?
To your point, I didn't understand who I was, and I did have like a little bit of a identity crisis. I never understood my value. Even like launching my app, everyone was like, congratulations. I was like, anyone can do it. That was my mindset until, I ain't gonna lie, until going to therapy. I was like, I realized I was never proud of my achievements. I was never proud of graduating. I was never proud of launching my app. I was never proud of like doing all these crazy things that not everyone can do. But one of the things I started doing recently, I wanted to write my beliefs system down. Like I wrote them down. I wanted to see if I was actually doing things that align with my values. I wrote down like, what do I really stand for? Like what is exactly that I want to stand for? So I wrote down a list, and I wanted to see if I was like aligned with my values. It shows like your character and what you're about.
In order to understand your true value to the world, you have to understand what you value above all else and really understand who you are as a person, to have that backbone, that character. I always tell people, like, what are you willing to die for? If you don't have anything you're willing to die for, to me, I don't want to fuck with you.
Yeah.
What is the Alex Flores set of core values in your mind that somebody has to have before they can even achieve a high level of success?
There's a couple of things that I really, really believe. One is that having the ability to design yourself. You're able to be the person you want to be. It really shows your growth. Like, I was always a little bit more shy, a little bit more reserved, and I still kind of am, but like, I wanted to be like, I just wanted to be a better person. So to me, it's like you're able to redesign the life you want, the person you want to be, the body you want to have, the money you want to have, the house you want to have. The second one, I think for me, is I have a lot of discipline, and I'm still trying to figure out how I got this. But I see some of my friends, they tell me, man, you got to realize you're very disciplined. They tell me you're very disciplined. I thought everyone was disciplined, but then I realized not everyone was disciplined. But then I started learning what discipline is, and it's just like building good habits. It's not really complex, but like someone told me, show me your friends and I will show you your future. And I was like, wait a minute, who am I hanging out with? You want to be surrounded with people that are striving for more. If 5 people complain, you're going to be the 6th complainer. If there's 5 people that are millionaires, you're going to be the 6th millionaire. So I think those are 3 important ones for me.
One of the things that I feel most responsible, being able to provide opportunities. You know, I went from having absolutely nothing to my name, barely 2 years ago, to like now I'm responsible for 30 people. I take that to heart. You raise tens of millions of dollars. Now you have access to the best people in the world. And you go on tech Twitter and stuff like that, and you're always talking about high caliber people, A players, you know, the best people, the best this. And I was like, well, what does that mean? And I came to the realization, holy fuck, if I want to build the greatest Latino control company there's ever been, most Latinos don't look good on paper. They have no pedigree. They have no caliber. They don't look good on paper. It's a fact. I'm a fucking college dropout. I didn't go to a good school. I kind of had this quarter life crisis. I say, fuck, like, I know for a fact that you are the average of the 5 people you spend time with. I know for a fact that mentorship is a big determinant to success. Gigantic. So I want to dive a little bit in the topic of mentorship and network, because a lot of times, a lot of Latinos don't have access to the networks that we have. And I know you have a lot of really amazing friends that have doing a lot of stuff. How do you find those people when you feel that you come from the hood, that you have no access to people that really are inspiring you? You know, how do you do that?
I didn't really have a lot of mentors growing up until like the past 2 years, and that's the honest truth, like, you know?
Me too, bro.
But one thing I did do different was that, all right, I don't have any mentors. I even emailed people. Like, that's a blessing to have some good mentors or some good people around you. And I never used to have that until I started being a little more successful, which is kind of sad, because like then that means like a lot of people are not willing to help when you don't have it. But that's like the most important time. Mentors are great. Definitely get some mentors, but the people that really help you elevate are your peers. I think that's the way I see it. Like for me, I had people that were really interested in elevating their lives, and I think that's what helped me a lot. Like we were at the same level. We were all trying to do better for us. We were trying to leave the hood. I didn't feel too alone because I did have some friends that were creating, and it wasn't tech, but it was like, man, I'm inspired by y'all, and I want to be surrounded by these people. And I unfortunately had to drop some other friends through this journey, but the mentorship didn't come to, like, honestly, like a year or two ago.
I think that's the biggest problem that the Latino community faces today. And this is something that I will work so fucking hard to help fix. I will die in this hill because it is extremely difficult to find mentors that are willing to help you when you need it.
When you need it.
And I was just like that. Like, I had an amazing father figure. My dad is the benchmark for sacrifice, for doing what needs to be done to provide for the family. So I had that paternal foundation that I think is so strong. But it's not the full picture. Your parents are the foundation you stand on. But when you're looking at the stars, you don't see yourself. You just said a word that just impacted me a lot. Loneliness. You feel lonely. And that's how I felt. If I would have met Alex Flores when I was 17, Alex Flores now when I was 17, if I was able to ask you some of the questions that I'm asking you right now, I would have left inspired as fuck. I would have been like, fuck, man, like, I can do it. There's hope. I don't feel so lonely anymore. I see such a devoid lack of that for our community, and I try so hard. That's why being who I needed when I was young is like my mission. I take that point with great pride, but also with great responsibility. This conversation right now is generational wealth. When you look at your bank account, you're not satisfied. And you're wealthy. You don't feel satisfied. But that's how you're going to get to the $500 million yacht. That's how you're going to buy the G4 in 5 years, right? You're never going to be satisfied. I'm the same way. I'm never satisfied. I never feel good enough. Yeah. I never will get to a point where I felt like I made it, and that's the blessing and the curse. But that, to me, the ability for us to be able to like leave that behind to somebody else to see it maybe in 5 years. Maybe the impact we bring is not now. Maybe it's in 10 years down the line. But it's there. And that knowledge is power. It's very powerful. It's far more valuable than the money. Yeah. I think it begins with the mindset. And then it goes into us being the network that we didn't have. And I feel the value of today and age with YouTube and content is that network doesn't necessarily even mean knowing somebody personally anymore, which is fucking amazing. Yeah. We didn't have that when we were growing up, you know? So I feel that responsibility to do that. What we represent is so fucking special. It really is. We broke through, we achieved something, and I get to speak with people that a year and a half ago, I would never in a million fucking years felt that they would ever give me the time of day. So I wake up and saying, what am I going to do with that? Because it's not for me, it's for what I can represent. That position of what you represent in the community, far beyond the money and the wealth and everything else, like that knowledge that somebody did it so that I can, it's incredible to me. So what is legacy? What does it mean to you?
I think about legacy a lot. Like I said, it's my umbrella purpose. It's my North Star. It has a lot of aspects to it. We should share this knowledge. And I do have a lot of younger people that reach out to me. I'm really big at educating, especially Latinos, Latinas, on being able to make it and also financial literacy. I want to educate more people on denting the world on the way you want to see it. So yeah, that's part of my legacy too. And I want to do a better job at doing it. I mean, I'm inspired by even like you creating this and inviting me here. Like, we do have a sense of responsibility and knowledge. So like, it's really good to share it.
Knowing other successful Mexicans makes me very proud. I really hope that today, at the very least, you know, you really live today with that sense of responsibility. Be who you needed when you were young. So many kids are ashamed of who they are. I was ashamed 5 years ago. I am empowered now. And that's, I feel like, where the Mexicanness now just exudes out of me, because I no longer live my life in shame. I live my life in pride. And I want people loud and fucking clear to understand what a determined, hungry Latino can achieve. because that's what I will ever be.
Bro, that was fire. We're not competing in any way, but in a way, we could become really resourceful with each other. I don't think a lot of people with our backgrounds understand that, because it's kind of more of a struggle mindset. Like, because I used to have it too. Like, man, I want to be the best, and it would seem like a competition. This competition shit is like corny. Like,
it's toxic.
Yeah,
bro.
It's very toxic. Like, I saw it in my communities. Some people will feel some type of way with your success and with my success. It sucks because, like, at this point, sometimes, like, white men give me more love than, like, my own people.
I feel like that a lot.
Dude, so it's like, and I don't want it to be that, but it's because there's not a lot of us at this level.
Or maybe it's because they haven't heard your story, bro.
I mean, you're right. You're right. It could be that, because I am pretty reserved. You inspired me today by just telling me, like, I have a responsibility, and I don't want to be that person holding all the knowledge. Like,
Bro, you could change many lives. Greatness for you, your family, and your community is the legacy. To wind down, just because I'm curious, obviously you're a very culture cosmopolitan, wealthy, design freak Mexican.
Yeah.
You know? And we talked a little bit about this earlier before the show. And I said that the older I get, the more Mexican I become. Like, all my teenage years, I was very, like, ashamed of my upbringing and the music and all the shit. And now I find myself, like, listening to stuff that reminds me of my abuelita or my mom, or, like, you know, shit that I would have cringed at 5 years ago. So I'm like, I'm getting old. Run me through some of these, like, Mexican things for you, because I know you said you kind of are a little bit like that. Kind of run me through the Alex Flores persona.
I think we need more people that combine Juan Gabriel while wearing Balenciaga.
Yeah.
You don't see that
Not
shit,
many,
bro.
man.
Like, I love the shit like that. It's like, why do we always have to stay in the hood while listening to corridos? Like, yo, let's elevate and let's get some bread. And so, like, for me, like, I do listen to a lot of Jose Jose, some boleros. I listen to salsa music. I listen to Juan Gabriel. I be connecting with my parents because it was their first concert.
Yeah.
But to me, that juxtaposition is so fire. Like, I don't want to be stuck in the hood doing this. Like, I want to live an elevated life and still doing things from my past. And to me, that's beautiful.